I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson. Here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Duluth Mayor Emily Larson joins us to talk about some important city issues, including the finalists for the police chief and fire chief jobs.
All through the month of April, journalists, bloggers, artists, and others are sharing their St. Louis River stories. We'll have more on the One River project.
And we'll take you inside the new Maurices headquarters building for a private video tour.
All this and more coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. This week our show is recorded ahead of time on Wednesday afternoon. And now here's Denny with our first guest.
All right, thank you very much, Julie, and welcome everyone. Well, it's been a busy first 4 months in office for Duluth's new mayor. Along with Assembly and Administrative team, these first days have been filled with a variety of challenges. Now later this month, the mayor will make her first State of the City address. Duluth Mayor Emily Larson joins us now for a conversation about city issues. And Mayor, thanks for being here. Now, you were on the city council for some time before you became mayor. Has anything surprised you?
Oh, that's a great question. A lot has surprised me about this job, but not shocked me. You know, I am glad that I had 4 years on the city council and then as city council president to really get a sense of how you navigate, you know, political decisions and kind of get used to the push and pull that you have on issues with people. So that experience has been really, really helpful. The thing that has surprised me is the depth of connection people have to this role in the community. I mean, I get letters really every day, notes or prayers or whatever it is, people letting me know that they connect to the work, that they care about what's happening. Most of the time it's positive, not all the time, and that's good too.
Sure.
So that actually did surprise me. I thought that might kind of taper down, but it continues, and that's great. People are watching what's going on and they care about what happens.
Everybody always looks to the first 100 days. You've passed your first 100-day mark. Have you completed everything that you set out to do in that initial push?
I think I completed a lot, yes. I mean, what I will have to do, you know, we're still writing the speech. I'm still writing my speech for next week for the State of the City address. And yeah, actually, I think I have. There are a few things that I came in with that I really set out to do, and the first was to build an administrative team. And so working on that, and I think we'll probably talk about those positions. The second was really reflecting the values I campaigned on into the public service. And so those values of inclusion and transparency, I think I've demonstrated those, you know, both in our City Hall and the City series, which is me getting into the community once a month rather than having mayor nights in the council chambers or in City Hall. And then really demonstrating my core values around investment. So when the first two financial investments I asked the council to make were about streets and energy. So we went from doing 5.5 miles of roads and street repairs this summer to over 14 miles. So I think I have come in and got quite a bit done already.
And you are fairly lucky to have that budget surplus to work with in putting those two things together on the front end.
That's right. That's right.
Talk about the energy efficiency piece a bit, because you plan to spend a $500,000 on energy efficiency, and some people might not understand why that's a good investment for the city and why the city should take a leadership in it.
So the city really has a lot of low-hanging fruit when it comes to energy efficiency and charting a course towards our own energy sustainability. We are, and part of it is I'm down at the legislature pretty regularly lobbying on different issues. And as I was lobbying our legislators on the steam plant, a major project for our downtown that is a big energy project, I started thinking about our own energy plans as a city and realized, you know, I'm asking for a big commitment from the state and we've got a lot of work to do as an organization. So this initial $500,000 investment will pay for itself within the first 5 years. It'll pay for itself because we're going to have decreased energy costs, because we are going to have greater efficiency, and then it's going to pay for itself again in the following 5 years, because it's going into a dedicated energy fund, meaning that every dollar that's saved gets reimbursed and put back in, and then gets reinvested into more energy upgrades. So it's important for the city to say, this is a value, this is important, this is a strategy our community partners can build around, whether it's Equilibrium 3 or Minnesota Power, and we can kind of put our stake in the ground on that as a community and say we prioritize our energy.
Let's talk about your administrative team. You've got the 2 finalists for both the police chief and for the fire chief. The 2 candidates for police chief, they're both from Duluth.
They're both from Duluth.
Tell us about them a little bit.
Yeah, so this process I stated in January would be to hire a police chief and a fire chief using a process that engaged the community. And I don't recall a time that that's been done before. So I had a review panel for each of those positions. We reviewed every single applicant, did preliminary interviews. And so for police, we have these 2 finalists who will be with us next week. One is already on staff, Mike Tuskin. He is the interim police chief, and I asked him to take on that role early in my administration. And then the other is Brian Kozak, and he is originally from Duluth, now working in the state of Wyoming.
Right, police chief in Cheyenne.
That's right.
You'll be making decisions on both positions, police and fire chief, in May?
Yes.
I think so.
It's busy.
Yeah,
yes. So we also had a review panel for fire chief. Now, the processes have been similar, and at this point they become different. So the finalists will meet with the community at a community forum on April 28th, and then I will collect feedback from that, as well as staff and bargaining unit feedback on those police chief applicants, and then I will also meet with them, as will some of my administrative team. And then for fire, we're not having the community input meeting. It's just a different kind of position, and in both cases we took extensive survey and online survey with the community to get input already on both of those positions. So it's great. It's very exciting.
It's always tough to make decisions by committee, though. Is there a danger of having too much input from too many people in these hiring processes?
Well, it's interesting because I find a couple of different things. In particular, these positions, they really reflect the very core elements of safety and community. So I think in these 2 positions, having the public input that we've had is really important, and I think engages people. I do think you don't always need to bring everything to people to get their approval. And I think the difference is saying, I'd like to hear your feedback. I'd like to hear what your ideas, your concerns, your questions are. At the end of the day, I'm the one who makes the determination. Very clear on that. As is, the review panel, as is the staff who will be weighing in, and so I'm really confident that it's going to be both will be very difficult decisions made with the best interests of the community.
The North Shore Theater project has been approved by the City Council. I think the vote was 8-1. What happens next, Mayor?
Well, now we work on closing the project, actually. So our work has been significant since I started, and part of that's one of the other things that when we talked about what I've been doing these first 100 days, some of it's just kind of closing the deal on things. So whether it's North Shore, the bonding projects, or other projects that we have going on. So now we're to the point where we are literally going to be closing that deal and closing on the building. That should take place, I think, at the end of May is what I'm thinking.
Could we see some work this summer?
Yes, absolutely. We're ready, and the project team is ready. This is just kind of the stuff that needs to happen before you can push go.
So DITA is turning over the building to the developer.
Correct. George Sherman.
How much risk is there for the city and for DITA to do that, along with providing the TIF funds?
Yeah, actually there's very little risk, and I really appreciate that people have questions about that, because I have to say that I did too, and I do too as mayor. It is not in my best interest to put our community and our finances at too great of a risk. There's always an element of risk anytime you're using any kind of funds that could be invested in a project. Now, these are economic development only funds that we can be using, so I can't use these funds to hire staff or do streets or expand library hours, so they're very well utilized in that capacity. They are very protected, because if there are cost overruns, those are not our responsibility. If the project doesn't go through for whatever reason, we do not have liabilities there. So there's an enormous amount of checks and balances on that for the public good, and we spent literally hundreds of hours making sure that that would be the case.
There was an agreement on the runway expansion up at the Duluth International Airport. There was some concern that AAR could pull out if they weren't able to come up with an agreement. How involved was the city in trying to negotiate a resolution to that?
You know, we were very involved, and we did not intend to be that involved. We have bonding projects that we are asking for from the state of Minnesota for the steam plant and for the zoo. The airport is a project that we're really very committed to and passionate about. We aren't the applicant. So typically it's not a role that the city would have a whole lot to do with. We would support it, we would talk to our legislative team. This required an enormous amount of time from us and from the city of Duluth. I'm happy we did it. We found a resolution, and I actually do believe that if we weren't in the position to do what we did and to facilitate conversations and to, you know, bring stakeholders together, we would not be in this position.
In the short time you've been in office, have you been fostering, Mayor, a renewed relationship with the Fond du Lac band over the squabble over the casino?
Yeah, I'm going to be kind of coy about that answer, I think, only because this is something that I'm working on, and it's really not for public consumption, or it's not something that I'm able or willing to talk about publicly, but there are conversations happening.
So you've got your State of the City coming up
Yes,
soon.
next Wednesday.
Yeah, anything you can preview on that or tell people, or
Well, I think
what do you have planned?
I'm really excited because I'm really using this. You know, we've all watched a lot of these speeches from people, and you could spend the whole time doing a laundry list. Here's what we've done. Here are the, you know, successes. Here are the outcomes. I'm really excited about this as being my first in laying out vision and laying out direction. So it's a short speech. It's, you know, it starts at 6:30. Television goes off at 7. That's actually not a lot of time to cover enormous ground. But I'm really going to be talking about my values of leading by being, which is something that that you'll hear more about in the State of the City speech, which is really you know, demonstrating to the community that we, you know, the work that we're doing is work that the city and I as a leader am actively involved in, and I'm so excited about it. It's shaping up really, really well.
Duluth Mayor Emily Larson, we hope to have you back again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
Ask any Northland motorist and they'll tell you road construction, Minnesota's 5th season, is just around the corner. And new Department of Transportation Commissioner John Riley announced 55 new highway projects for our region from the south portal of the Lafayette Tunnel.
The actual amount being spent on highways is not going down. It's going up ever so slightly.
Coming soon, the final phases of Duluth's I-35 extension project, completion of the Lafayette Tunnel, Phase 3 of the Highway 33 Expressway just north of Cloquet, and the total rebuilding of Duluth's 6th Avenue East, just to name several. In all, nearly 60 miles of road rehabilitation at a cost of $61 million. Minnesota Road Construction 91. This saga continues despite a tightening of the budget belt attitude in the state legislature. The construction curtain calls will be many, but take heart. Light at the end of this tunnel is only about 7 months away. Ryan Davenport, KDLH News.
Everybody has a story, and journalists like to tell those stories. So what would happen if storytellers from our region all agreed to turn their attention to one topic? That's the premise behind the One River Many Stories project, which is playing out across multiple platforms in our region all this month. The topic is the St. Louis River, and the stories really can be about anything at all connected to the river. And here to tell us more about One River and what has happened so far is John Hatcher, a journalism instructor at UMD and part of the team behind the project. And thanks for being here, John.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Talk about what the One River Many Stories project is and how it got started.
Yeah, and that's a great question, and one that I could take a long time to answer or a short time, and I think I'll choose the latter here. It kind of began over a cup of coffee and getting together with somebody named Paul Lundgren, who is the founder of a citizen journalism project called Perfect Duluth Day. And a couple of years ago, we started talking about ways we wanted to kind of strengthen the relationships between media in this region, you know, and we use this term media ecosystem. You know, you think about every day, you think about all those stories that get told, you know, some by professional journalists, but others by bloggers, and some just by people taking a nice photo and posting it on Instagram or social media. And we started to look at other places where there's more of a network, you know, and we started to wonder, like, what would happen if we tried to build stronger connections between all of those people? And so, you know, an image that you posted, maybe through my networks, I could connect others to it. So we began thinking about a topic, and it really kind of grew out of this idea of a couple of different things. One is kind of a sad piece of this story, is that Mike Simonson, who is an instructor and radio personality here, passed away. And right before he passed away, he told Paul Lundgren and a few other people that he was thinking about retiring soon, and he'd always envisioned producing a documentary about the St. Louis River. And that stayed with Paul. And then about that time, there were some opportunities for grant funding, and so that connected with this idea. Paul came and said, "What about the St. Louis River?" And then it also made sense because all of these different community groups and organizations are already working so hard on efforts to revitalize river communities, both government and grassroots organizations, and the environment connect with the river. So in so many ways, it just made sense that the St. Louis River would be the topic where we kind of did this grand experiment.
John, people have been living alongside of and playing on that river for decade upon decade upon decade.
Right.
How important is it from a journalistic standpoint that these stories be told and then handed down? You know, 50 years from now, there's going to be another generation of folks listening to or reading these stories.
And that's, I think, the most exciting part. You know, we kind of put this challenge out to the community, and I should say right away we got great support with a Knight Foundation, a Knight Fund grant from the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation, and we kind of started to announce, here's what we wanted to do. But we didn't know what would happen. You know, really all we can do is put the challenge out and ask people to participate. And groups like especially the Playlist, the WDSE, and the Duluth Art Institute, and bloggers, and all these other people just kept coming to us and saying, well, what about this, and what about this? You know, all of these different ways they might contribute, and we're like, these are all perfect. And what we're really seeing, and you saw this really at the Duluth Art Institute event the other week, was all of these just ordinary folks, just citizens whose, like you say, whose lives have been connected to this river and the communities along it, came forward with their stories to tell. And so if it all becomes part of this collection, what a wonderful opportunity that is.
Are there any of the stories that you've heard or that people have submitted that really strike you personally, or maybe you could give a sense of the range of stories?
Of course. You know, I think it runs the gamut. There's a blogger named Eddie Gilmore who decided to take us up on this challenge and went out and started to explore the St. Louis River and decided he was going to tell his own story. And so he began doing some research and investigating. Well, in that research, he discovered a woman named Claire Schumacher. Claire Schumacher has written a bunch of historical pieces about the St. Louis River, and he went and visited with her, read her books, learned about, you know, her story, and then actually brought her to the Art Institute event. I mean, that's just, you know, you think about the connections there. And then another one that I think has been, I think, exactly what we had hoped would happen with this project is Ivy Vainio. Is a photographer, among other things, and she did one of our first workshops, because another thing we've been doing along with this has been workshops kind of teaching people from local talent how to do journalism. And so she took a series of portraits of different people along the river and their connections. And so she is both African American and Native American heritage, and the people she took photos of also represent diversity within the community.
What is it about the St. Louis River, John, that draws us and holds us?
You know, I think, I can't remember where I read it recently, but it talked about, you know, we often think of Duluth, we think of Lake Superior, but we don't think about how important that river is, and its history and its legacy, and really the communities along it. You know, that really Duluth is largely here because of that. And I think that heritage and the history of the communities that have lived along it, including, of course, the first and foremost, the Native American communities.
We started as a river town.
Exactly. So for me, it's been an amazing education. I've only lived in Duluth since 2007, and so for me, the past 6 months have been this incredible lesson in the history of you know, and the communities, the river, and the entire watershed, which reaches all the way up into the Iron Range. Yeah.
We're out of time. I'd like to very quickly, though, ask, your students are engaged in it.
They are.
What's it like for them?
I think it's been a great experience to connect them with professional journalists in the community. We've got them doing internships at different places around, and then we also have a group of students out in Lincoln Park telling the story, working with the kids in that community, telling the story of the Lincoln Park community, which is part of that St. Louis River area.
All right, hands-on learning.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
All right, thanks.
The most expensive commercial development in downtown Duluth history is almost complete. The first wave of employees at Maurice's new headquarters building on Superior Street will be moving in this weekend. By May 2nd, all 450 employees are expected to be working in the building. Almanac North got an exclusive tour of the $75 million building just days before it opens.
So this is the main grand lobby to the building. So we have kind of our signature Maurice's M that lights up at night, so a great view. And then we have the video wall here that will show a lot of our fashions. So this is where people would kind of walk through in the morning to get to the building if they're not coming in off the ramp, kind of our security guest services area. Kind of a waiting area that's Maurice's owned here. Before we started construction, we did a big survey of all of our associates to see what's most important. So things like access to daylight, the adjustable height desks, you know, lots of conference rooms. So we kind of felt like we hit the checklist of things that people inquired about, but then we worked with designers and architects to really put this together. So we had a kind of a cohesive feel and really tied to our brand. So our marketing department was really involved. So this whole back corridor is our health and wellness area. So I'll take you into our exercise and group fitness rooms, and then we have a whole room dedicated just to training and development. And this is where we'll have treadmills, ellipticals, weight machines, so you could do a class, you could come just to work out. It's also on our first floor because we have a lot of people that run, so they could head right outside, get on the lake walk, whatever they want to do for outside as well. So they don't pay anything for it, they just sign up for a class. We do a lot of different types of health and wellness challenges. We bring in nutritionists, we do a lot of different things around health and wellness. So these are kind of what a typical workstation banks look like. So we wanted to keep the windows very open so we don't have offices up against the windows. We have some offices here, but again, all glass walls. There's some really cool features that we're really excited about. So one of the big requests from our associates too is having adjustable height desks. So everybody will have an adjustable height desk so they can stand and work, sit and work, whatever that may be. Our phones will all have video conference capabilities as well, so you can see each other on video. So when we're talking to our other brands or some of our partners that also have the video capabilities, you can do that right from your phone. So this is one of our favorite areas, and as the associates have come through. So we have the 7th floor, which is kind of our main energy area. These are on each floor, and they're called our front porches. So another gathering space. So we'll have booth seating all along here, high top seating along the windows, a refrigerator here. This is our mock store. So basically what this is, just to clarify, because I know there's some confusion, are we doing a retail store? We don't have a retail store in this building where we're selling items out of it. But this is basically what one of our stores looks like. But this is really where we set up kind of what a real store looks like. So this is kind of how we stage our stores across the country. We do photos, get all of that. We do design, we do concepting, trend. We have people that do all the buying and allocation and deciding what stores get what. All of our e-com business and mobile business is run out of here. So this is our family room, as we call it. So there'll be all kinds of different types of furniture in here, what we call our main energy area. So we have about 450 associates that will be here in this building. So this is where they'll come for grab lunch, breakfast. There'll be high top tables like this where they can plug in their laptops, have these gorgeous views of Duluth. So this really was built intentionally as kind of the heart of our building. The floors, which we're really excited about, are hardwood floors, and they're from old barns across the upper Midwest, and so we really wanted to play kind of to our heritage. We're really building this as a multi-purpose room where you can eat if you want to come work, kind of really some flexible workspaces. So this is what we call our deck. So again, we have the family room, we have the deck. We'll have picnic tables, different kinds of seating out here. We'll have some plantings, so just an outside area for associates to come sit, have lunch, gather, have a quick meeting, whatever it may be. We'll start packing up all next week. Yeah. And then 220 will move that first weekend, so they'll start their first day here on Monday, April 25th. And then the second group moves the following weekend at about the same, about 220 people. And they'll be in by May 2nd. So by May 2nd, all of our associates will be here in this building.
The Maurices project includes a new 4-level city-owned parking ramp with 500 spaces, which is expected to open to the public later in May.
It's time now for the week's business headlines from Business North. At a time when new home construction has slowed to a trickle, a Superior company has been recognized for building 500 of them. Ideal Homes received the honor from Dynamic Homes of Detroit Lakes, which manufactures housing modules that are assembled by their dealers. They are the only Dynamic Homes affiliate that has ever reached such a high sales level. Ideal Homes sells in a large territory from the Twin Cities to the Canadian border.
An agreement has been reached to modify the schedule for reconstruction of the 60-year-old main runway at Duluth International Airport. A 2-month runway closure was initially proposed for this summer, but it created a major problem for AAR, which maintains commercial aircraft at the airport. AAR's primary customer, Air Canada, said it was unable to use a smaller runway during the work, threatening jobs and workload at AAR. Now the reconstruction project will be split into 2 phases, one starting June 1st and the second sometime in 2017.
Has-Bargain Logging was named Logger of the Year in recognition of outstanding independent logging contractor performance. The award was presented to Kit, Clarence, and Denton Has-Bargain, the 3 brothers who own and operate the Birchdale-based company. The brothers represent the 4th generation involved in the logging industry. Members of the family's 5th generation also work for the company. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Well, now's the time to call if you have a comment on this week's show. Dial 218-788-2849 and leave a message. Or send an email to Almanac North at WDSE.org. You can also visit the WDSE website for updates on your favorite programs, to become a member of WDSE and get the latest news about the station and upcoming events. And Julie, one of those upcoming events is the WDSE Kids Club Circus at the Superior Middle School, Saturday, April the 30th.
And that is always a fabulous event, and you can sign up for membership there if your kids aren't.
Absolutely. They have a lot of fun there. For Julie and the crew at Almanac North, I'm Dennis Anderson. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody, and be kind.